The Emanating by George Taylor Chapter 1, Out of the bluest skies the yellow sun sank slowly, stretching shadows across the gravel drive. The old oak trees lining the property began to hum with the chatter of evening cicadas. Somewhere in the distance, an old screen door creaked open and shut, a sound that seemed to echo through the years. It was the kind of place where time felt like it folded in on itself, where afternoons bled into evenings, and evenings into memories. Taylor wiped her hands on her shorts and stepped back from the open trunk. "That's the last of it," she said, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek with the back of her wrist. "We are unofficially packed." Toby glanced up from where he was kneeling beside the back tire, checking the pressure with a small, battered gauge. "And only 3 bags over the earth limit," he teased, grinning. She gave him a mock stare, then broke into a wide smile. "All necessities. Don't even try to pretend we won't need at least 2 blankets and a gigantic bag just for snacks." "Snacks, I understand. The 3 extra pairs of shoes?" "Not so much." Taylor plopped down on the edge of the porch, the worn wooden boards groaning softly beneath her. "You just don't get it," she said with mock seriousness. "Shoes are the foundation of any good adventure." Toby laughed and stood, wiping his hands on a red shop towel before tossing it into the open tool bag by the garage. He looked around the low sun, the breeze rustling the tall grass at the edge of the field, the house with its chipped paint and wraparound porch that smelled like old wood and summer. He'd always loved this old house. Taylor's aunt had lived here for as long as he could remember, and it had become their default gathering spot for holidays and long weekends. There was something deeply comforting about it, the way the floorboards creaked in familiar spots, the way the wind moved through the trees like it was telling stories. Taylor had already kicked off her shoes and was tucking her legs beneath her, watching the last sliver of sun melt below the treetops. "You hungry?" she asked, glancing back at him. "Starving," he admitted. She pointed toward the frayed screen door. "Aunt Millie left us some chicken salad sandwiches in the fridge and a pitcher of sweet tea. Said we'd needed something for the road." Toby's stomach growled on cue, and they both laughed. Inside, the house smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and dried lavender. The kitchen was just as he remembered, wide and open, with a battered wooden table in the center and a row of mason jars lined up along the window. The fridge hummed softly as Taylor opened it, pulling out a covered plate and the tea pitcher. "Grab some glasses," she said. Toby nodded, reaching up into the cabinet and pulling down 2 mismatched mugs, both chipped at the edges. They filled them with ice from a rusted old tray in the freezer, and he followed her back out onto the porch, where they settled into a pair of faded rocking chairs that looked like they'd weathered 1,000 sunsets. Taylor passed him a sandwich, wrapped in wax paper and tied with a little piece of twine. "Aunt Millie and her rustic presentation," she said fondly. He unwrapped his and took a bite, letting out a soft moan of appreciation. "God, this is good. She put something in this. What is that, dill?" "Magic," Taylor said through a mouthful of sweet bread. "Pure, southern magic." They sat in silence for a few moments, chewing and sipping their tea, the porch creaking gently beneath them with each rock of their chairs. The sky was deepening now, purples and dark blues beginning to press in on the remnants of gold. Fireflies blinked into existence in the tall grass, one by one, until it looked like the field had been sprinkled with stars. "I love the fireflies, they are like stars," Taylor said softly, breaking the quiet scene. Toby looked over at her. Her eyes were reflective in the low light, filled with something between excitement and nostalgia. "I know," he said. "Like a painter's dreamscape." She nodded. "It's not just a road trip. It's everything we've been talking about since college. The places we said we'd see. The kind of summer we always said we'd have before life, you know." He knew. They'd both gotten jobs straight out of school, safe, stable jobs that turned into years of 9-to-5 routines, morning commutes, and the kind of small sacrifices that never felt like much until they added up. But now, With her promotion on hold and his decision to leave the business behind, it felt like they were finally taking a breath. "What made you say yes?" he asked. "This time, I mean. We've talked about it forever." Taylor leaned forward and set her empty mug on the porch railing. "I don't know. I woke up one morning and realized I didn't want to wait anymore. I don't want to keep putting things off until some perfect time that might never come." Toby looked down at his own hands, calloused from years of work, and thought about all the plans he'd filed away for later. Later when the timing was better. Later when things were more settled. Later, always later. "I get that," he said. "I really do." They sat there as the stars began to emerge, one by one, dotting the sky above the treetops. The night had a weight to it now, a sense of something about to begin. The packed car, the full tank of gas, the map folded on the dashboard, it all waited for them, humming with possibility. Taylor leaned her head against the back of the chair and closed her eyes. "Promise me something," she said after a moment. "Anything. Promise me we won't rush. That we'll take the long way whenever we can. That we'll stop when something catches our eye, even if it's just a weird little roadside stand or a field of sunflowers." Toby smiled. "I promise." She opened one eye. "You better. I will hold you to it." They chuckled again, and the silence returned, not awkward, but easy, thick with the comfort that came from years of knowing each other. The kind of silence that said everything without needing to fill it. He watched her out of the corner of his eye, the way the porch light caught the edge of her profile. There was something unspoken between them, always had been. A thread that ran quietly through all their years of friendship, tugging here and there but never quite unraveling into something defined. Maybe this trip would change that. Or maybe it would just make the friendship even stronger. Either way, he was ready. Taylor stretched her arms above her head and let out a soft yawn. "All right," she said, standing. "We should hit the road before we get too comfortable." Toby stood, brushing crumbs from his jeans. "You sure you don't want to stay the night and leave in the morning?" She shook her head. "Nope. I want to drive through the night. First sunrise of the trip should be somewhere new. Somewhere we've never been." He nodded, impressed. "I like the way you think." They carried their mugs and the sandwich wrappers back inside, rinsing them out in the sink and leaving a quick thank you note on the counter for Aunt Millie. When they stepped back out into the night, the crickets were in full symphony, and the Corvette waited patiently at the edge of the drive, its headlights glowing like fireflies of their own. Toby opened the passenger door for her with a small, theatrical bow. "Lady." Taylor grinned and curtsied. "Why, thank you, good sir." They laughed as she climbed in, and Toby circled around to the driver's side. The engine purred to life beneath his hand, the familiar rumble of years of work and care. He looked over at Taylor, who was already trying to find a song, queuing up the first song of the trip. She looked up and met his eyes. "You ready?" He nodded. "Let's chase that sunrise." And with that, they pulled onto the road, headlights slicing through the dark, two souls chasing freedom down the long, winding highways of everything they'd ever dreamed. "Did you pack the extra sunscreen and toothpaste?" Toby called out, his voice carrying over the hum of the evening. He tried to peek into the open trunk, but it was jammed full of clothes, blankets, and half the contents of their kitchen snacks for the long road trip ahead. Taylor didn't answer right away. Instead, she was rearranging a stack of towels, humming a tune under her breath as she danced around the back of the car. Toby watched her for a moment, the way her smile was like sunshine, how she seemed to float on air, even in the middle of the chaos of packing. "I did," she finally called out, grinning as she emerged from the back seat holding a neon bottle of sunscreen, the cheerful logo almost blinding in the fading light. "Jenna thinks I'm going to get sunburned." Like I haven't been telling her for years I can walk in the sun for hours without turning a shade darker than a lovely little peach. She squinted playfully at him, her eyes twinkling with mischief. The way she spoke, so effortlessly confident, reminded Toby why he had fallen for her, her unshakable self-assuredness, her sparkle that could brighten the darkest day. Well, maybe you should let the sun take its course this time, Toby teased, shifting his weight as he leaned against the car. His eyes wandered to the highway stretching before them. Who knows, maybe you'll get that perfect, golden 10. Just don't forget the sunscreen on the way, or we'll end up looking like lobsters by the time we reach your parents' place. Taylor chuckled and rolled her eyes, her hands on her hips. I swear we are like an old married couple already, she teased. Jenna thinks I'm a drama queen, but I'll show her. Just wait, I'll be as sun-kissed as a California beach babe by the time we get there. Toby shook his head with a grin, appreciating how her energy seemed to fill the whole space around them. They finished packing, securing the last of their belongings in the trunk. He couldn't help but feel that spark of excitement. They were about to embark on something bigger than just a road trip. It was their first adventure together as an engaged couple, a chance to celebrate their love in the most personal way possible. Meeting her parents for the first time as their future son-in-law, he couldn't lie, that thought gave him the occasional nervous flutter. Ready to hit the road? Toby asked, looking over at her. Taylor's smile lit up her face. Born ready. Let's go, my sweet darlin'. She winked and hopped into the passenger seat, slamming the door with a satisfying thud. I'm already imagining the adventure ahead. He slid into the driver's seat, the leather of the steering wheel cool under his fingertips. He cranked the engine, and the rumble of the Corvette's powerful motor was a sound that never got old. The speakers blared to life with their playlist, Taylor's indie tunes mixing with his classic rock. He hit the gas, and the car shot forward, tires gripping the road as the world around them blurred into motion. Taylor threw her head back and laughed, her voice mixing with the wind as the sun dipped lower. This is it, she exclaimed, her eyes wide with excitement. She turned up the volume, belting out lyrics with abandon, her voice joining the music in perfect harmony. Toby glanced at her, his heart swelling with affection. Is this real or a sci-fi simulation? He muttered, more to himself than anyone else. The feeling of driving down the open road with her at his side was beyond anything he had imagined. Hell yeah, it's real. Taylor shouted over the music, grinning ear to ear. You better believe it. Toby couldn't help but laugh, feeling the weight of all his worries lift. They were in this together, this beautiful, spontaneous whirlwind of life and love. He reached over, giving her hand a squeeze as she continued to sing along, her energy so contagious he found himself tapping the steering wheel in rhythm with her. As they cruised along, the scenery began to shift. The familiar antique sprawl of their hometown gave way to the open expanse of Texas fields, wide, flat plains stretching to the horizon. The smell of wildflowers mingled with the faint scent of freshly cut hay. It was like the world had opened up to them, inviting them on an adventure. They fell into a comfortable silence, the only sound the hum of the road and the music playing softly. Toby fiddled with the stereo, adjusting the volume just as they hit the chorus of one of their favorite songs. Taylor, lost in the music, began swaying in her seat, her shoulders moving in time with the beat. Her carefree spirit was intoxicating, and he found himself completely captivated by the way she let go, letting the music wash over her. Sometimes I wonder if you were born in the wrong era, Toby said, glancing sideways at her, a playful smile tugging at his lips. Taylor raised an eyebrow, her lips curling into a big smirk. What do you mean? She asked, her voice teasing. Well, you're too wild and free to be tied down by the century, he said, laughing. You should have been one of those rock and roll girls from the 70s, like one of the ones who made the posters. That's who you remind me of. Taylor leaned way back in her seat, closing her eyes for a moment, and when she opened them again, her smile softened. Maybe, she said, her tone more thoughtful. But I think I was just meant to be here with you. Right now. Toby's heart skipped a beat. I feel the same way, he murmured, his hand brushing against hers again. They settled into a slower, more soulful ballad, the music wrapping them in a comforting embrace, both of them savoring the moment. The road stretched endlessly before them, the sunset was very light of the hues pink and orange-red. The dust and dirt bathing the two-lane highway in a coppery hue. Toby's car hummed along the asphalt, its engine purring with the contentment of a big cat after a meal. The wind poured through the open windows, stirring Taylor's hair and sending ripples through the map sprawled across her lap. "You sure this is the right road?" she asked, tapping the map with her finger. "Feels like we haven't seen another car for an hour." "Yeah, it's right," Toby said, his eyes on the winding stretch ahead. "Just past Route 14. This stretch is supposed to cut straight through to this town. I think we've got maybe 30 miles to go." Taylor leaned back, stretching her arms above her head. "Well, it's beautiful. Quiet. Almost too quiet." They shared a grin. The road trip was a much-needed escape. Then came the sound. A piercing screech tore through the air, the sound of rubber burning against pavement. From the opposite direction, a black Dodge Charger surged over the ridge like a predator, engine howling. It swerved across the center line, barreling straight at them. "What the hell?" Toby barely had time to react. The Charger veered hard, cutting in too close. The driver's window was down, and inside, a man loomed. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with wild dark hair whipped by the wind. A leather jacket clung to his frame like armor, and his mouth curled into a smile wide and joyless. Taylor's eyes widened in horror. "Toby! Look out! Hold on," he barked. Toby yanked the wheel to the right, sending the Corvette into the gravel shoulder. Tires screamed. Dust exploded in plumes around them. For a split second, everything was chaos: roaring engine, flying grid, Taylor's scream, and then, silence. The Charger tore past, disappearing around the bend like a phantom. Toby kept a death grip on the wheel, heart thundering in his chest. He slowly eased the Corvette back onto the road. Did you see him?" Taylor gasped, clutching the dashboard. Her face had gone pale, eyes wide with lingering terror. "Yeah," Toby said, still staring down the road. "I saw him. That wasn't just bad driving. He was aiming for us." Her voice trembled, barely a whisper. Toby nodded slowly. "He looked right at me. Smiling. Like it was a damn game." Taylor twisted around in her seat, looking through the rear window. Nothing. No trace of the car. Just the road stretching empty behind them. "Should we stop somewhere?" "Report it," she asked, her voice faltering. "To who?" "We're in the middle of nowhere. Nearest town's probably 30 miles behind us," Toby muttered. "And even if we found a payphone, what would we say? Some psycho played chicken with us on the damn fucking road." Taylor swallowed hard and crossed her arms. "Well, I'm not crazy. That guy wasn't right. That grin, Toby, he wanted to scare us." Toby reached over and gave her hand a squeeze. "I know. But he's gone now." They rode in silence for a long stretch, the Corvette eating up miles, but the weight of what happened clung to them like fog. Every curve in the road brought a flicker of dread. Every oncoming headlight made Toby's pulse skip. Then, somewhere around mile marker 217, Taylor whispered, "Toby. Behind us." He glanced in the rearview mirror and his blood turned to ice. Far back, just cresting the hill behind them, two headlights shimmered through the dusk. Low to the ground. Moving fast. "It's him," Taylor said. "I know it's him." Toby's foot pressed harder on the accelerator. The Corvette surged forward. But so did the Charger. It gained steadily, as if toying with them, never getting too close. Always in view. Always present. Taylor twisted in her seat again. He's just following. Why? What does he want? Toby didn't answer. His jaw was tight, hands locked on the wheel. The highway ahead remained deserted, flanked by dense pine trees that cast long, creeping shadows across the road. Eventually, a battered wooden sign appeared on the right, Pine Hollow Rest Stop 1 mile. There. Toby pointed. We'll pull in. There might be a payphone or someone else around. Taylor nodded quickly. Anywhere with lights and people. The Charger kept its distance, but the headlights never wavered. They pulled into the rest stop, a lonely little clearing with a rusted picnic bench, a single street lamp buzzing overhead, and a vending machine beside an out-of-order bathroom. A payphone booth stood near the woods, half swallowed by weeds. Toby jumped out and ran to the phone, fumbling for coins. He yanked the receiver off the hook and shoved a dime in. Nothing. Dead line. He slammed it back down. No dial tone. Damn it. Damn it. Taylor was at the car, scanning the dark road. Where is he? I don't see him now. The Charger had vanished. Toby squinted into the distance. The highway lay still. No headlights. No engine noise. Only the wind through the trees and the buzz of the street lamp. Maybe he turned off. Maybe we lost him, Taylor said, but her voice was uncertain. Toby wasn't convinced. I don't like this, he muttered. Let's keep moving. This place gives me the creeps. They piled back into the car, and just as Toby reached for the ignition headlights. From the far side of the rest stop. The Charger had reappeared, nosing silently from behind a small maintenance shed. Taylor screamed. He's here. Toby gunned the engine and peeled out of the lot, tires spitting gravel. The Charger followed instantly, merging onto the road without hesitation. It stayed behind them, unwavering. They drove for miles in a tense, high-speed silence, both afraid to speak, as if acknowledging the chase would make it more real. Then, without warning, the Charger turned off at a fork in the road. Gone again. Toby eased off the gas, chest heaving. Okay. The bastard is gone. No more night driving. Taylor nodded, too shaken to be happy or joyful. Toby's mind raced for an answer, but then, out of nowhere, a thought popped into his head. He glanced at Taylor, giving her a half smile, trying to lighten the mood. You ever hear the one about the guy who drove a Dodge Charger across the country and ended up in the hospital? Taylor blinked, clearly confused, but her fear momentarily shifted. What? No, but yeah, turns out the guy had a serious case of road rage. Real bad driver. They had to rush him to the emergency room. A smile tugged at the corner of Toby's lips. That's the spirit. So, how about we switch the vibe back to something fun? She raised her eyebrows and gave him a small grin. I'm in. What do you think, 80s rock or more indie pop? Indie pop, Toby decided, and with a quick flick of his wrist, he selected an upbeat track. The moment the first notes flooded through the speakers, the entire atmosphere in the car seemed to lighten, like the sun breaking through the clouds. Taylor's face lit up, and she immediately started tapping her fingers against the dashboard, swaying to the rhythm. There we go. Taylor exclaimed, her eyes gleaming as she belted out the first few lyrics, completely at ease now. This is more like it. Come on, sing with me. Toby chuckled, shaking his head. You don't want me singing. Trust me, I'll make the dog howl. But that didn't stop him from joining in, his voice awkward but free, blending with hers in a chorus that felt more authentic than any song they'd ever heard on the radio. They sang together, each passing moment rebuilding the excitement they had before the interruption. As they drove on, the fields and farms began to give way to the dusky colors of evening, the last remnants of daylight melting into twilight. "So, tell me more about your family's place," Toby said, his curiosity piqued as they entered the outskirts of the Panhandle. "I still can't believe I've never been there before. I mean, I've heard the stories." Taylor grinned. "Oh, you'll love it. My dad's been on that land for years, and he still swears he knows every blade of grass by name. But honestly, the real fun happens when we get everyone together at the big house for dinner. My grandma makes this famous peach cobbler, it's the bomb. You'll definitely get your fill of sweets this weekend, don't worry." Toby raised an eyebrow. "Sweets, huh? That sounds dangerous." He grinned at her. "What else should I expect? I'm trying to prepare myself mentally for the Texas experience here." Taylor laughed, her eyes sparkling. "Prepare yourself for cowboy hats, barbecue so good you'll want to move in, and my Uncle Mitch's fish tales. That man's got enough tall tales to fill a book." "Is he the one who tells everyone he used to wrestle alligators when he was younger?" "That's him," Taylor said with a playful roll of her eyes. "Though, I don't know if I buy the whole wrestling alligators thing. I think he just likes the attention." "You'll get used to it." Toby laughed, his nerves from the earlier incident starting to fade into the background. "I'll take my chances with the gators if it means I get some of that peach cobbler. I'll make sure you get a second helping." "You'll thank me later," she said, her voice light, teasing. As the miles rolled by, they fell into a rhythm, their conversation drifting from wedding plans to funny childhood stories. Taylor shared an embarrassing tale about a time she tried to teach her dog how to speak like a human, and Toby laughed harder than he had in a while. There was something about her ability to laugh at herself, to tell stories with such ease that made him fall even more in love with her. By the time they crossed into the next stretch of open land, the sun had almost completely disappeared, and the stars had begun to twinkle in the emerging night sky. The car's headlights illuminated the empty road ahead, casting long shadows across the fields. There was a quiet intimacy in the air now, a peaceful, quiet moment where the whole world seemed to hush around them. "Hey, remember when you thought you could be a professional wrestler?" Taylor teased, breaking the silence. Toby raised an eyebrow, glancing at her in mock offense. "I was considering it," he said with a grin. "I had the moves. I could have been the next big thing." She snorted with laughter. "You had the moves, all right. As long as flailing wildly counts." "Hey, it's a strategy," he said with a shrug. "You throw off your opponent with confusion and unpredictability." Taylor rolled her eyes, chuckling. "I think the only thing you'd throw off is your own back." "Well," Toby said with a grin, "as long as I'm throwing you off my back, I'm good." "You're impossible," Taylor said affectionately, swatting at him. But she smiled, the warmth of the moment carrying them both. The road stretched on, and as they talked about everything and nothing, Toby realized that every mile brought them closer to something greater than just a destination. It was a journey, a shared experience. And it was theirs, woven together with laughter, love, and the memories they were creating.